We've already seen the forced resignation of the Attorney General a day after the election. It's clear, therefore, that something has to be done to protect Mr. Mueller's investigation.
This is about the legislative branch asserting a common sense check and balance on presidential overreach.
This is a solution in search of a problem. The president's not going to fire Robert Mueller.
Well, 3 Senate Judiciary Committee members today taking to the floor to try to force a vote on a bill to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Now, this happened before news broke of a New York Post article, piece in which the president is quoted, asked about pardoning Paul Manafort, his former campaign chairman. Pardoning Manafort, was never discussed, but I wouldn't take it off the table. Why would I take it off the table? That prompted a lot of response on Capitol Hill.
That's par for the course, I guess, just to hold that and dangle it out there.
The real danger here is a pardon, which is in Trump and Manafort's interest. It would be solid evidence of obstruction of justice. I'm not aware of any conversations for anyone's pardon involved in this process at all.
So it's like a 4-alarm fire up on Capitol Hill over this today. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for The Washington Times. Amy Walter, national editor for The Cook Political Report. And Hugo Gurdon, editorial director for The Washington Examiner. Amy, thoughts?
That's not the only 4-alarm fire that's going on, right? There's the Saudi Arabia question, what we're going to do there in the war in Yemen, and should we continue to give support to Saudi Arabia? And then, of course, you have Mueller, and then you have judges, right? All of this trying to get squeezed into the next week and a half. These guys would like to get done. Oh, and we also have a lame duck session where we need to pass a number of very important bills. So this seems to be one of the many things that Congress is juggling. Look, I don't know that there's going to be an answer to whether or not we're going to get a Mueller vote right now. It seems like Flake is out there a little bit on his own in terms of being the one Republican that could make this happen. To me, the question is whether
I guess Corker's there.
Right, that's true. But Flake saying, I'm not going to support any judicial nominees that come through unless I get this vote, and whether or not that has enough leverage to get that vote to the floor, on top of the other votes rebuking the president, one of which happened today on Saudi Arabia. How many of those can McConnell really continue to hold up?
Hugo.
You know, the president does have a way, as Jeff Flake was saying, of dangling things, or another way of looking at it is expressing things in a way which poke the hornet's nest. You know, by just suggesting he's not going to take it off the table, it suggests to the Democrats who have been, saying that he wants to pardon Manafort, that that's what he's going to do. But it works in the Democrats' favor to try and pass this resolution to protect Mueller, because even if the president has no intention of doing this, and as the majority leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, is saying this is a solution in search of a problem, it allows them to keep stoking the idea that the president is going to try and do this. I think they'd have a tough time proving obstruction of justice if the president exercises his constitutional powers and actually does the pardon.
I mean, there are people up there today saying just by saying what he said, it's already obstruction of justice. I mean, the snowball just goes down the hill very quickly here, Charlie.
Yeah, welcome to the next 2 years of Washington, and in particular in Congress. The good news for the president, though, is that because of the elections, the GOP, the Republican caucus, is going to be a little bit more Trumpier. People like Bob Corker and Jeff Flake won't be there sniping from the Republican side. It'll mostly be Democrats that are playing these games. But in terms of the issue of pardoning, once again, it's a situation where you have Trump saying something. It's that he dangles something. It's that he actually enunciates it. Everybody knows that this is the sort of thing that pardons have been used for forever. And we can say whatever we want to about Paul Manafort. And it's great that he's been found guilty of crimes that he committed. But of course, he committed them a long time ago. And the only difference between why federal prosecutors didn't go after it back then, that remains to be answered. But the only difference between that and what ended up happening is the fact that he got involved in politics, and specifically with, and that by definition is a political prosecution.
Well, it's important to note that we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
I say that all the time about the Mueller investigation.
Absolutely.
We do know that there have been some stories that have just really fallen apart that got a lot of traction. Yesterday there was a Guardian report that said that Manafort met with Assange in London and talked about the WikiLeaks emails. Well, this is the Washington Times. Paul Manafort's passports don't show he entered London in all the years claimed by the Guardian newspaper when it said he met secretly with WikiLeaks' Julian Assange. The Guardian said he met with Assange in London in 2013, 2015, 2016. A review of Manafort's 2 passports show he's entered Heathrow Airport since 2008 on 2 occasions, 2012 and another time where the customs stamp year was blurred. It appears to say 2010 or 2016. Point is, that is in court records from his trials, and it kind of falls apart. And I mean, it took up a lot of airwaves yesterday.
Yeah, though it was notable that no other news organization was able and said over and over again, we can't
confirm this. But here's
and they walked it back as well.
Yes, and the Guardian's intro said the Guardian has been told. They didn't say they were not even standing by their own story. They just said we've been told this, but we.
My point is, in the vacuum of information,
of course, that takes up a lot of absolutely. Right. But here's the thing: why would, to your point about the prosecution, it's all political. Why would Mueller be cutting a deal with Manafort if he didn't have anything to give him? Right? He would have just prosecuted this would be over. So there's clearly more that they wanted to get from him. That it's not over.
No,
right?
it's not over. They've got something.
So they've got something, and the idea that they could just prosecute him and then let it be done.
Or they think they have something.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me just play Jerome Corsi, who's also facing a charge of lying. He was on our channel last night.
I've never met Julian Assange. I've never spoken with him. I've never emailed him. I've had no contact with Julian Assange whatsoever. I've been a loyal American. I have no contacts with Russian intelligence. I have no business interests in Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. I've never been to Russia.
Hugo, these denials are pretty straight. Who's telling the truth, who's not? We don't know what Mueller has. He obviously has a lot of investigative months behind him. But it seems to be coming to a head here.
It certainly does. These are as categorical denials as one could possibly get. You know, the falling to pieces of the deal that Manafort had with the prosecutor is another sign that this is coming to. I think that that Manafort does look like he's looking for a pardon. I think that it does raise questions about why the president would want to give him a pardon. You know, all of that, the question of a pardon, the question of prosecutions, it's all coming to a head, as you say.